Hello, today we are going to share on the ordinary 13th Sunday. And in the Gospel we will see Jesus raising the little girl from death. And, and her father earlier went to Jesus to ask him to heal her. But Jesus, then the servant came and told him, "Your daughter had died already." Then Jesus said, "Do not be afraid, just have faith." That is the gospel, part of the gospel. Now we look at the first reading first. It's from Wisdom, the book of Wisdom. God did not make death, nor does he rejoice in the destruction of the living. For he fashioned all things that they might have being, and the creatures of the world are wholesome, and there is not a destructive drug among them, nor any domain of the netherworld on earth, for justice is undying. Here, we will go further into this when we later on. But here, Wisdom was trying to stress that God did not make death, nor does he rejoice in the destruction of the living. He fashioned all things that they may have being, that they may have life. And the creatures of the world are wholesome, and there is not a destructive drug among them, nor any domain of the netherworld. Netherworld would mean hell, Satan, sin. Sin will not have domain over the world, over the earth. For justice is undying. So here is stressing on God and his creation and his emphasis on life and that we must not stress the netherworld, Satan, sin. We must not stress this, but God will see to justice being undying. For God formed man to be imperishable, the image of his own nature. He made him. But by the envy of the devil, death entered the world, and they who belong to his company, to the devil, would experience death. So God's creation is for life, for imperishable life. But the devil would bring death into the world. And whoever belonged to the devil, to sin, would experience death. So this is the first reading. But we will go further into this later on and explain this. And now we come to the second reading. It's from the second book of Corinthians. The apostle said, "Brothers and sisters, as you excel in every respect, in faith, discourse, knowledge, and all earnestness, and the love we have for you, may you excel in this gracious act also. For you know the gracious act of our Lord Jesus Christ, that though he was rich, for your sake he became poor, so that by his poverty you might become rich." So here the apostle was speaking to the community of the Corinthians. And he was praising them, excelling in every respect in faith, discourse, knowledge, and earnestness. And in the love we have for you, may you excel in this gracious act also. That means love for one another. And the apostle reminded the community that Christ was rich, but for our sake he became poor. For their sake he became poor, so that by his poverty you may become rich. That means Christ was God the Son, and being God the Son, he was enjoying life. He was rich and wealthy. But when he became man, he gave up his situation as God the Son and became poor, became limited as a human. So that by his humanity, by his poverty, by his death, he could make us rich. Not that others should have relief while you are burdened, but that as a matter of equality, your abundance at the present time should supply their needs, so that their abundance may also supply your needs, that there may be equality. Equality would also means a balance. As it is written, whoever had much did not have more, and whoever had little did not have less. There was a balancing out between the rich and the poor. So here, Jesus, the apostle was telling the community also that they should have a balancing out of their situation, like equality, that those who have those in abundance should supply for those who have needs, and so that their abundance would also supply for your needs, that there will be a balance and equality. Whoever had much did not have more. That means those who are rich have many things, they have extra things, they will not retain these extra things. They will share out their extra things. And whoever had little did not have less. So those who were lacking and had needs, they would get from those who have extra, from those who are rich. So there would be a sharing and a balancing out. We also need to do this in our present community, but this is not done very often. We must learn to share so that nobody would be in a very great need, to suffer from great need. So now we come to the Gospel of Mark. When Jesus had crossed again in the boat to the other side, a large crowd gathered around him, and he stayed close to the sea. One of the synagogue officials, named Jairus, came forward. Seeing Jesus, he fell at his feet and pleaded earnestly with Jesus, saying, "My daughter is at the point of death. Please come, lay your hands on her, that she may get well and live." So he believed in Jesus, and he was asking Jesus to come and heal her so that his daughter would not die, would get well and live. Then Jesus went off with him and a large crowd followed Jesus, and pressed upon Jesus. While he was still speaking, people from the synagogue official's house arrived and said, "Your daughter has died. Why trouble the teacher any longer?" So the servant came to tell the official that his daughter had died, that he no more need to trouble Jesus, the teacher. Disregarding the message from the servant that was reported, Jesus said to the synagogue official, "Do not be afraid, just have faith." He did not allow anyone to accompany him inside except Peter, James, and John, the brother of James. So Jesus was going to the house of the synagogue official. And when they arrived at the house of the synagogue official, he caught sight of a commotion. People were weeping and wailing loudly. So he went in and said to them, "Why this commotion and weeping? The child is not dead but asleep." So Jesus was telling them, they knew that the child had died, but Jesus was telling them that she had not died yet. She was just asleep. But they knew that she was dead, so they ridiculed Jesus. Jesus said she was just asleep, to mean that he will wake her up. Then he put them all out. He took along the child's father and mother and those who were with him, and entered, that means the apostle who came with him, and entered the room where the child was. He took the child by the hand and said to her, "Talitha, talitha kum," which means, "Little girl, I say to you, arise." The girl, a child of 12, arose immediately and walked around. That means she arose from the dead and she was alive and able to walk. At that, they were utterly astounded. The people around were utterly astounded. He gave strict orders that no one should know this, and said that she should be given something to eat. So the people were astounded because Jesus awoke the dead child from her death, and Jesus knew that she should be hungry by now, so he told the people to give her something to eat. And if we link this up to the first reading, then we can come more deeply into this. But this miracle is an example of the power of Jesus to do this. So this was to show that Jesus had this power to raise the dead from death, to raise people from death. So here, Jesus said to the girl, "Little girl, I say to you, arise." And she awoke from death. This is a reminder that Jesus spoke to the official, the synagogue official, her father, that do not be afraid, just have faith. Then we come to an explanation of a basic explanation that we should always remember. God created us not towards a dead end, but towards life in the risen Christ, towards life in heaven. That means we are created by God not to finally die, just die and end, but not towards a dead end, but towards life in the risen Christ. That means Christ died and rose from the dead. So life in the risen Christ, towards life in heaven. So God created us to have life, towards life in the risen Christ, life in heaven. So we remember this. Life is not towards a dead end, but towards life life in heaven. And here we look at the second reading. And here that while we are living on earth, we should share. And in our community, we should share. And share, so we should have a balance and equality on all sides, such as between rich and poor. That means the rich having extra to share the extra with the poor, and the poor having needs should get a share from those who have extra. So here is a sharing out, and we must learn to do this in our community, not to stress getting rich and neglecting the poor, nor in society to stress wealth and richness, but neglecting the poor and looking down on poverty, but to share, to balance out, to have some equality. So we must remember this, especially in our Catholic community. In our community, we must remember this and practice this. So here, we must remember this. We must all remember this and practice. Well, okay, God bless.